Okay. I buy a big house where we both could live. If I was a sculptor, but then again, no, or a man who makes potions and travel and show.
Hello? Hello? I don't know who this was. Okay. Okay. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Yes, so I just got off the phone with the homeless hotline. They don't help you during the daytime. This is the this is the constant battle that you're gonna have. You know, they just give you a bunch of resources and phone numbers to call, but where are you supposed to sit and call, in the middle of a code blue and it's cold temperatures outside? There's nowhere to go. You can't sit in the IHOP all day, so eventually, you got to pay for your step and you got to leave. So, yeah. And then if they're, violating our rights, destroying our property, and you don't have a phone, then yeah, you can't make your phone call. So this is the problem that you're going to run into. Yeah. So they want you to wait until, business hours are basically, you know, done, the business hours are over, and then they're going to put you in a motel. It doesn't make sense, but this is how they do it. So you just got to find somewhere to, stay warm in the meantime, right? That's all we can do. Um, so yeah, that's all. I'm just gotta finish it up here, wrap it up. But there really is nowhere to go. They don't want to extend the motel stay, and we're going to be getting a severe storm. We're going to be getting a severe winter storm, and I'm still pretty much on the tail end of being sick with the virus that I caught at the dirty shelter. So, but for those of you who asked, I'll put my PayPal and Cash App in the chat for the people who asked about it, because there were some people who were asking. So, um, I appreciate it if you want to donate or not, but there were folks who were asking, so I'll put it in the chat. So thank you again for the people that, genuinely care and stuff. I do appreciate it, and that pray and things of that nature. So I'm just trying to stay strong. But there's nowhere to go, and I'm stranded out here. Pretty much, you're stranded with nowhere to go. If you can get here, and again, it costs money, and the police do not transport you. They say that they'll provide transportation. That's not true. They don't provide you transportation. You have to pretty much, and my bus pass can only go so far, and there's no buses that come out here. So you're pretty much trapped and stranded out here. You're pretty much stranded with nowhere to go. Yeah, so, yeah. So it's almost 2 o'clock here where I'm at. So they basically want you to wait till 4:30 for them to put you in a place, that's safe and you're off the streets. Yeah. So you just got to do the best you can. There's no love out here in these streets. There's just not. People they they just don't care, and the governments don't care about the people. And it takes time. It's a process. If you're struggling, if you're living in poverty, it does take time, and to just say get a job is, it's kind of hard to get a job when there's nowhere to go. There's, and then sometimes, yeah, people are judgmental of your physical appearance. They might not want you to work, because or whatever reason. So yeah, it's not easy, but Yahuwah is good, and I trust in the Most High, so everything will come to pass, and everything will, work itself out. So He says all things are going to work out, for those who trust and believe in Him. All things will work out for our good. So yeah, I made my phone calls. 211. They just gave me a bunch of resources and phone numbers, but it's no real applicable, practical help. Like nowhere to go, nowhere to put someone, in the middle of this code blue because it is cold. I mean, yeah, it's cold. I mean, it's endurable. But I am getting over, being sick. So yeah, but thankfully I'm somewhat a little bit better than I was, a little bit. So yeah, this restaurant's not too crowded, so I'm just kind of sitting here, relaxing, drinking the coffee, staying warm, making phone calls, and that's all you can do is just keep pressing on. I'm not really sure how much the motel cost here. Um, if I paid for it on my own, I would have to call and find out. Yeah. So yeah, it's just. And then you're just making phone calls basically, and then if they destroy your phone, thankfully, I have my backup phone, and this one has a cover on it and a case and a protector. My other one, I didn't have excuse me, a protector. So it was already a little bit cracked, but it was working. My phone was working, and I have my laptop, and I have to look up different things and use it for work. This is my work, researching. So yeah, but other than that, yeah, just trying to stay strong. Figure out where I'm gonna sit until 4 o'clock or 4:30 rolls around, and hopefully I can get back in the motel. So shelter said they permanently banned me again. Yeah, because I'm not gonna tolerate abuse. Nobody should. Nobody has the right to abuse you or violate your rights. No one. hmm just because we're homeless doesn't mean we lose our rights, okay? So you can't just mistreat homeless people because you don't like them, or most of the staff working at these shelters, not all, I'm sure, but a lot of them are incompetent. They're not capable of working with people with disabilities or mental health or autism or any other kind of life situation that that person might be going through, right? Trauma, whatever. They're really not equipped. They do show favoritism. They do, yes, they do. They show favoritism. And even scripture tells us not to show favoritism and partiality, you know. Yeah, we shouldn't be doing those things. So, you know, but they do. They show partiality, they show favoritism to certain people. And then, some people have family members that work, at the shelter, and their family members go to the shelter. So there's a lot of that going on. Yes, people selling drugs, doing drugs in the shelter, outside the shelter, selling drugs in and out of the shelter. It's just, yeah, it's dangerous, and people are not safe. So, and they don't protect us. They don't. They might protect certain folks, but not everyone. And again, violating serious health codes at the rescue mission of Trenton, where I was particularly at, and they don't take you seriously. Just because you're homeless, now your credibility goes out the window. I mean, yeah, it's just a very sad, sick system, that's really not designed to help people. You know, and a lot of those women at the shelter are making it a lifestyle. They've been there. Like, I go back there and it's all the same people. It's like, you're still here. A lot of them, yeah, they're waiting for housing, but a lot of them make it a lifestyle. And that's what they choose. I could have been had an apartment, I could have been had a room by now, I could have been renting somewhere by now, but I've had to spend all my money, my disability money that I saved so I can get a place. I had to spend it because it's freezing temperatures. And now I don't have any money. And 211, the New Jersey homeless hotline, if they know you have money, they make you pay for it. So when you're out here trying to be an honest person, trying to serve the Most High, trying to do what's right, being honest with people about your situation, yeah, it doesn't pay. Not in this system. They cater to the criminal mind element, liars, cheaters, thieves, people, manipulators, people getting over on people. That's what they seem to cater to. Um, so when they're asking you all these questions, do you get an income, this, that, and the third, and you're being honest, and they know it's the time of month where you're getting an income. Now they're like, oh well, now you pay for your own motel. So all that money that you saved goes out the window, and you can't save for a first month's rent and security deposit. And a lot of these places, when you call them for help with first month's rent and security, it's the same routine. We don't have funding. We don't have any funds. There's no money. So it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, to say the least. So there's really no real solutions, out of poverty. There's really not. And half these numbers that they give you, they're not helping the people. I've contacted Volunteers of America. They told me they don't have any funding, they don't have any money to help. Yeah, so it is what it is. So yeah, that's it. It's just they just give you a bunch of numbers to call and referrals. That's it. They text me a bunch of referrals and all these numbers, and where are you supposed to sit and you know call all these people and do all this stuff somewhere safe, somewhere warm, somewhere off the streets, somewhere where someone's not going to steal your laptop, steal your possessions. um, somewhere where you're not going to get sick and catch a virus, or it's dirty and nasty. Yeah, or having me stranded out here on a highway, where there's really nowhere to go. So you just do the best you can. That's all I can do, and I'm still not 100%. I'm still congested and throat's a little sore, but I'll survive. The Most High is good. Someone said, if you knew Jesus, you wouldn't be homeless. That's not true because, first of all, when, my family worships Satan, they're witches. That I was adopted into this family that's doing Satanism. And the Bible makes it very clear. The scriptures is clear that a household will be divided, and a mother-in-law will be against a daughter-in-law, and a sister and a brother, and all that stuff. You're going to be in a home where one person wants to actually do, the Most High's will, and other family members don't, and then that can trigger them, and you can lose your housing. So Yahushua made it very clear that we would go through trials and tribulations, and that we wouldn't be treated well by people. Um, that we would be hated by all nations for His name's sake, right? So I'm not part of a Christian nation. I'm part of a Hebrew nation. I'm part of Yisrael, a set apart nation, a holy people, a royal priesthood. Yes, people who come on here and say women can't teach and preach and proclaim. That's a bunch of misogynistic nonsense. You know, I follow truth, not tradition. And tradition is women need to shut up, women need to be silenced. No, that's how a lot of atrocities and abuses take place in these so-called churches and assemblies, right? Um, because yeah, women can certainly proclaim the good news. Women certainly can preach the word in season and out of season. A lot of these men want to control women, and yeah, I coming out of domestic violence and narcissistic abuse. No, I'm not going to be controlled by men who are coming on the channel telling me, oh, women can't preach, women. I'm not usurping. I'm not trying to have authority over a man. I'm a woman. Okay, I am a woman, a biological woman, and I preach the word of the Most High. Okay, I'm a watchman. It's my job to warn people of the wrath to come. That is my job. And I've been called. Many are called, few are chosen. It didn't just say only men are called, only women are called. It says many are called. Okay? So, these men like to come on and they like to try to silence the watchman. Whether it's a man or a woman preaching and proclaiming, there's a lot of men who like to silence people and silence us who are, doing our researching and due diligence to preach the word of the Most High, you know. And I take what the Most High has given me, and I take it very seriously. So, being homeless on top of it is not easy. It's not. This world is not meant for our comfort. When you're called to be set apart and separate and come out from among people that are doing these abominations like Christmas and birthdays and Easter and Halloween and trunk or treat, yeah, like I don't fit in with religious people. Christians are the religious Pharisees of our day because they're doing these holidays, these hell days, and they'll say a woman can't preach. A woman can't usurp her authority over man, when most of these men in these Christian churches are doing things against the Most High's word, and they'll manipulate you with that scripture and say, oh, you're a woman, you need to be silenced. I had a man in Florida who was a pedophile, okay, a registered sex offender with an ankle bracelet on his ankle, right? And yeah, he told me that he tried to say the same thing when I told him about the vaccine and COVID, and he got vaccinated. That was his choice. That was his choice. But he had an ankle bracelet. He was a registered sex offender, in the church, the Catholic church that we would go to eat at, in Florida, in West Palm Beach, you know, was protecting him, because this is what the church does. They've always protected, you know, the predator. Never the children, never the women. They protect the pedophiles and the predators, the rapists, the sex offenders. And they were protecting this man, and he was hiding behind scripture, the Bible. But he was on the registered sex offenders list. Yes. And when I told him about the vaccination and the dangers of taking it, that's exactly what he did. The same Christian bullying mentality, misogynistic mentality. Oh, women can't preach. Women were deceived by the snake in the garden. Well, good for you. Now you got bit by the vaccine snake, okay? Like, seriously. It's a joke. It's a joke, but to each their own, It's like, well, you made your choice. And then the next time I saw him, his legs were swelled up and worse than ever, because he had some kind of, he was a diabetic. Something was going on with him with his legs, fluid in the legs and stuff. And who knows, who knows if he really repented of being a pedophile, but he was on the sex offenders list as a registered pedophile, okay? And he was carrying around his Bible, his scripture book, preaching to all the people at the church, okay? And, hiding behind the church to protect him. So when I told him something real about the COVID vaccination, the jab during that pandemic and that time, yeah, that's what he said. Oh, the woman was deceived by the serpent. So silly woman me for warning you about the jab. That's what I'm talking about. This is the attitude that a lot of misogynistic men have towards women who actually are intelligent, educated, know the word, know the scriptures, you know, and because I don't fit the beauty standards that you think I should have, somehow I'm less valuable to the kingdom of the Most High. No. And I had all my teeth when I went to Florida. I just started getting my dental work and, getting myself healthy. Yes, oral health is very important, um, and all that good stuff. You got to take care of your teeth. You got to take care of yourself, and that's why I said these medications are horrible. These pharmacia meds, they give you cotton mouth, they dry your mouth up, and they're not good for people. You lose the natural saliva that your mouth produces. One of the side effects, right, is cotton mouth. So, yeah, these are the things that you're going to face in the preaching work. And when I was preaching in Florida and I was on the street and I was doing street preaching, and it's like whatever, um, you know, uh, and I'm still here and I'm still going strong. And, I'm still going to continue to preach the word of the Most High. I'm going to continue to preach, because I don't need a man's permission to preach the Most High's word. I don't need a to man to tell me, oh, it's okay, Candace, for you to preach the word of the Most High. No, Yahuwah gives me the permission to preach His word, to proclaim His word, to read His word, to share His word. I don't need a man's permission. I don't need to go to a pastor or a deacon or something like that. Okay, it's like, if you're filled with His Spirit and He gives you the strength to preach His word in season, out of season, and warn your neighbor, because that's what love does. Love warns your neighbor. Love tells the truth, right? In season, out of season. And we are supposed to be keeping His commandments. Those are the 10 words, including the fourth commandment, right? Remember the Sabbath day and keep it set apart. We are supposed to be preaching, keeping the commandments, not the commandments of men, but the actual 10 words that Yahushua preached. And on those 10 words hang the two, right? To love the Most High Yahuwah with all your heart, mind, and soul. And the second is to love thy neighbor as thyself, for sure. So I've dealt with these kinds of men before that have told me this, that women have been deceived. Well, thankfully, Yahuwah opened my eyes, and I wasn't deceived by the jab. But he was, and he was a Christian. But he knew everything. You see, he's a man. He knows everything. He didn't want to take, uh, wise counsel and wisdom from a woman. So his arrogance and his pride and his hatred and misogynism or misogyny, he went out and got vaccinated. So he'll find out sooner than later if he hasn't already, if he's still even living at this point, because he looked in terrible, horrible shape. The last time I saw that man, that registered pedo, he looked horrible and his condition worsened. And they were sending in these huge buses to vaccinate homeless people. Okay. And I was warning and preaching against the vaccines. And these homeless people still went and did what they did because they were giving them gift cards and money and incentives. And they had a fake preacher, a man, a pedophile at that, a registered pedo, telling everybody not to listen to me, a woman. So, yeah, when people come on my channel with that nonsense about women can't preach, women can't proclaim, women can't warn, please. I've already seen the danger in these kinds of attitudes towards women. I've seen the misogyny, I've seen the hatred and the danger because this pedophile told people in the homeless population, don't listen to her, that silly woman that the snake and the serpent deceived about the jab. So, yeah, attitude towards women, yeah, it's disgusting. Um, it really is. You get these men that are just completely Looney Tune, and they take scriptures out of context to abuse, to manipulate, and to harm women. Strong, intelligent women of God, women of the Most High God, who are warning the population and warning the people about the abomination of desolation that is going into your temple. So I don't know whatever happened to that registered pedo, but he wasn't in good shape the last time I saw him. So, yeah, women can warn, women can proclaim the good news, and women can warn people. Absolutely, they can. But if you want to be a hard headed, stiff necked, wicked generation of vipers and try to put women down and talk, like women are children and we don't know nothing because the serpent deceived the woman. Yeah, so, he'll find out, what he injected in his body sooner than later, if he hasn't already, if the man's still living. So, yeah, we have to be mindful, folks. Use wisdom, use caution, always use discernment, test every spirit, because there's a lot of manipulators out here. Yes, there is a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, for sure. Um, but I am a watchman on the wall and I am warning people, right? I don't understand why these men have such issues with women who are warning and proclaiming the good news. So, anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. I got to get out of here soon. I've been here for a while, and hopefully, Yahuwah Baruchs me with a room tonight. So I'm just going to chill and hang out around this area, and hopefully they'll put me back in that motel. All right, guys, take care. Adios. Have a blessed one. Shalom.